Hey, what's going on, Bills Mafia? I am recording this on a Thursday. Jeez, where the week's gone. And driving home from work. I just wanted to give some thoughts on a few things because I won't be around this weekend to record. Bills-wise, training camp just ended. I was at practice on Wednesday, the second last day. Have some observations on that. Wanted to discuss the first episode ever of the Buffalo Bills Hard Knocks training camp. First episode the Bills have ever had of any Hard Knocks type production, and had a few thoughts on that. First, I'll start with the fact that training camp is now officially over at St. John Fisher and moves to Buffalo, where the Bills will face off in their first preseason game this Saturday. Exciting stuff. There wasn't a whole lot I took from practice being there in person. I don't have a great vantage point when I'm there. I'm not a media member, obviously, so just a few examples was that I feel like I've kind of been looking for the QB2 battle between Mitch Trubisky and Mike White. So when I'm watching individual drills, when I'm watching 7-on-7s, 11-on-11s, receivers versus air, those sorts of passing things, I'm looking between Mike White and Mitchell Trubisky as one of the bigger battles going on right now. And it looks like, I don't know, man, I see Mike White is just as advertised from the Buffalo media. He's much more of a pocket passer, but he is more accurate and slightly more decisive than Mitchell Trubisky is. So I'm kind of rooting for Mike White. I feel like we know what's going to happen with Mitchell Trubisky. He's more athletic, at least moving in the pocket, moving out of the pocket when the play breaks down. So it's kind of similar to Josh Allen in that standpoint. But with Mike White, you get better accuracy, better decision making. A guy that's probably going to stay in the pocket sometimes too long. Hence why we saw him took a huge hit from Matt Milano when he was part of the Jets, when Mike White was part of the Jets. So I feel like we kind of know exactly what we have in Mitchell Trubisky. I kind of want to see Mike White get the chance, personally. So yeah, that's where I stand right now in the backup 2 quarterback conversation, although Mitch Trubisky did have a few really good throws. So it's not like he's terribly inaccurate. He's just hit or miss. Speaking of hit or miss, Keon Coleman had a drop versus the air early on in the game, or early on in practice, and then made up for it with some really good catches basically from there on out. So an up and down training camp for Keon Coleman, but definitely not a disappointing training camp for the second-year wide receiver. Balen Spector got waived right before practice started yesterday, so I didn't see him there. Wasn't a whole lot else to notice. I mean, there was a great touchdown pass between Josh Allen and Dalton Kincaid, which was cool to see. I'm hoping this is the trajectory we see for Dalton Kincaid. He's that kind of slot, deep seam sort of passing weapon that the Bills have been looking for. They have a good slot receivers, but they need a taller weapon in the middle of the field. And hopefully we get some good injury news from Khalil Shakir, which looks like he's possibly going to be available week 1, which is good news. Great news if true. So going on from that, I saw the first episode of Hard Knocks, which, by the way, like the Bills essentially hired an individual to produce their own Pagula Sports Entertainment videos. You've probably seen them in Embedded. They're really good. They're very Hard Knocks-esque in production value. And, I mean, if you like those series, you will love Hard Knocks. I mean, Hard Knocks is one of those series where you watch, and, I mean, it paints the Bills in a really good light. They're wasn't really anything negative to take away from the episode in general, but they have a really good soundtrack to go with that. I think the Pagula Sports Entertainment kind of has a free, I forget what it's called, non-copyright sort of software and music that they have to use. So it's good stuff, don't get me wrong, soundtrack quality, but they can't play, DJ Khaled on there, without risking being sued for copyright usage, whereas, they're using the NFL Network or NFL Films and Hard Knocks and HBO are using Mr. Brightside. And the montages where they do use the soundtrack, where they show, plays being made either on the side, in the locker room or during a game. Not plays in the locker room, but sorry, I'm driving, so I'm a little bit more scatterbrained even than usual when podcasting. But yeah, this they'll show plays being made in training camp, in the game, in past games, and it's just really cool effect. And then they highlight a lot of the players that you would think. In this episode, they did a lot of Deion Dawkins. They did a lot of Tre'Davious White, which you love to see. I forgot how much I really enjoyed and missed Tre'Davious White. I knew I did, but seeing Hard Knocks made me realize again, just like how good of a dude he is, how electric his personality is, and how much it makes people in the locker room, fans gravitate toward him. He just has an infectious smile and charisma that we really missed. It's not that we didn't have anyone to replace him, but just having him back helps that much more. They showed a scene in Pittsburgh Dairy where he tried something. He's like, man, I gotta get people to try this Trade Day Sunday, and then he did, and then it was funny him going around to people and him talking to Christian Benford at Pittsburgh Dairy. And Christian Benford even admitted in the press conference after the first episode that he is more of a quieter type of individual than Trey is, but they kind of feed off each other in that respect, and they complement each other well, which is cool. Another thing with Christian Benford was they showed him after the Maxwell Hairston injury. They showed Christian Benford, getting close to him, praying with him, one-on-one, kind of embracing each other, and it was a cool moment, real personal. Made you realize how much these players actually care about each other. So that was cool to see from Benford, a guy who's very, very quiet on a regular basis, unlike Tre'Davious White, who loves the spotlight in a good way. Some other things I noted here. Let me go through our notes. Josh has greetings for all the players. He has, dapped for all the players in the roster, which we know about. We've seen that for years. One thing I thought was interesting, one takeaway, is that he had one for, all the players in the offense, as he's going through. And then he gets to Connor McGovern, gives him a big hug, and says, love you, love you. They both reply back to each other, which I thought was interesting. That's not something that you just hand out to just anyone. Like, there's clearly a relationship there that's clearly just more than a, hey, what's up, man? Appreciate you. So I thought that was interesting. Whether it plays into a potential contract extension for Connor McGovern this next offseason has yet to be seen. But if I was a betting man, I'd bet toward that happening more than not happening, since, Josh, you would think Josh gets what he wants. He wants a center back for, a good deal, as long as it doesn't completely break the bank. I think he gets a center back. Same with James Cook. He mentioned just yesterday that he wants to see the contract situation get resolved for James Cook. And as far as Hard Knocks goes, they didn't mention James Cook at all, like zero. Not even having to do with contract, but also not having to do with anything about it. Personality-wise, I don't think they might have shown him playing in practice, but I don't remember a situation where they actually talked with him. So that was interesting. We'll see where that goes from here on out. If they mention it in the next episode, this next week, I'll be watching. So I'll be paying attention to that. Let's see. What was another thing? Josh Allen called Bill's Mafia a shadow of the locker room, which I thought was interesting. Basically saying it's a personification of what goes on into the locker room as well, on a larger scale, which was kind of cool to see. I've never heard it quite said like that. Joe Brady echoed, the offensive coordinator echoed in the offensive room, I don't care how many catches you have. Basically the everyone eats mentality, like I don't care about this, I don't care about your stats, I care about this team winning. So that sort of mentality is continuing this season, and it was kind of cool to see it actually verbalized in the playroom as opposed to just out in the conference, in a press conference. Deion Dawkins, this was interesting. I saw a few people mention this over Twitter. He has his little kids with him while he's drifting in these things, so he'll actually put his kids in the shotgun seat of a car while he's doing these drifting. I don't even know if they're races or practicing or what he's doing, but it's pretty cool. Obviously safe, or he wouldn't do it with them in the car, but that was a pretty cool situation to see that he brought his daughter and son out. His son is probably like 2 or 3 years old, so that was kind of cool. Some people noticed that his kids were watching the drifting races from like inside the garage, which only appeared to be 20 or 30 feet outside of where the drifting was occurring. But as a dad, like, those things scare the heck out of me. But I don't know anything about drifting. He probably knows a lot more than me, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But from the outside in, it's like, that seems close to have your kids. But then again, I'll rely on the professionals to answer that one, not me, just some dude that just watches it and has seen people like in drifting competitions get hit by cars, like on the internet. So that's where I'm standing from. But for him, it's probably, who knows, it could have been going like 30 miles an hour, like nothing quick, just doing donuts. So obviously not a lot to worry about, but just kind of funny seeing that. DBs were making fun of Trey White for having skinny legs, which was so, man, I've been working on them. He's talking about, I do squats, I work on them all the time. And then I'm kind of comparing their other thighs and legs. I'm like, they're not that much bigger, Trey. Don't listen to them. I thought it was cool that Deion Dawkins' kids call him Uncle Trey, call Tre'Davious White Uncle Trey. They're young, so a lot of them don't necessarily remember Trey. But Trey said, man, I was changing your diapers. I don't know if that's just a saying or if that's true. But if that is true and he actually did change a diaper of another person's child, like, that's impressive. Like, I only have 2 kids, but I don't know if I've ever changed a diaper that wasn't my own children. And I don't know anyone that's changed a diaper of my children's that wasn't me or my wife's, except maybe my mother-in-law when she watched them for a period of time. So, I mean, besides the 3 of us, it's like nobody's changed. Like, my sisters or her brothers and sisters haven't changed diapers. Maybe they have once or twice, but definitely not a person that wasn't related to them. Like, that's a big, tall ask for someone, but, impressive if true. I know I'm putting a lot on this diaper changing thing, but you don't understand. When you have kids, like, nobody offers to do that. And I would never expect them to, because they're my kids. But if I ever needed to, I would definitely change somebody else's kids, but I've just never had to. Their parents are usually around. But it's one of those things where, like, if true, man, that's impressive. That's like a good dude. Like, people that are selfish and narcissistic don't ever even mention changing other people's diapers, right? Like, they don't do that. So that was kind of cool. Let's see. Only a few more things. Thurman Thomas showed up to practice. It was so funny him watching with Brandon Beane, and continually, at least a few times they showed him on camera with Josh Allen throwing the ball, just going, wow. Like, just, geez, man, I can't believe that. Like, a few times, which is crazy because I know he's a fan, and I know it's not a complete comparison, but he did play with Jim Kelly, Hall of Fame Jim Kelly, quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, and Jim Kelly had some really amazing passes and throws. So, I mean, it's kind of cool that he has that sort of reaction when playing behind an offensive Hall of Fame quarterback. So, pretty cool. Pretty cool from when you put it in perspective like that. new stadium, they showed a little bit of that with Josh touring the new stadium while it was under construction. They said the wind movement won't be nearly as much of an issue as it is now with the current stadium. They said they scienced it out or something like that, to that effect, basically providing baffles and perforations to deflect the wind, or at least slow it down in different ways so that it doesn't affect the play on the field nearly as much. So that was kind of cool to see. I figured they would do something like that, but now it's good to have verification by the construction designers and workers there. So let's see what else. Someone mentioned over Twitter, like, how will that affect the fans' experience? It's a good question. I'm not sure. I'm sure it'll affect it a little bit. But then again, when the wind comes into the stadium uninhibited, like it does right now, it affects us as well. So I imagine it's only going to help everyone and maybe only affect a few sections at the top of the stadium at the most, maybe. I'm not really sure. So I can't speak to that without being, what am I trying to do? Like do breaking news or something? I don't want to sound ignorant for that. So yeah, those were my big takeaways from the first episode of Hard Knocks. Let me know what you guys thought about that, what you guys saw, maybe that I didn't catch that you really enjoyed. And if you guys could give me, could like, share, subscribe this episode with folks, I'd appreciate it through social media. Got a lot of backlash from that breaking news that obviously ended up being false, like people giving me 1-star reviews for breaking news that wasn't true, which I get. It doesn't affect the podcast itself. It affects social media for sure, but it shouldn't affect the podcast. It's kind of like a separate thing, but people looking to obviously, show me how much they hate me, dislike the fact that I made a mistake for that. In fact, one guy actually gave me a $1 donation through Venmo at CTW Pod because he wanted to let me know what a goof I was being by breaking news without confirming sources or something to that effect. That was kind of funny. But the 1-star reviews weren't funny. So if you guys could do me a favor, please leave a 5-star review or review in general to help with this one. I'd appreciate it because they kind of tanked us from being like 4.9 or 5.0 or whatever it was before that to like a 4.6 with just a few 1-star reviews. I'd appreciate it to make up for those. Thank you guys all for listening. Looking forward to watching or at least reading about the first preseason game against the Giants. Be interesting to see who plays, who doesn't, who gets first team reps, second team reps, etc., etc. So, yeah. So for me, Nate, go Bills, and we'll talk to you guys all again very soon.